This week we're looking at number 12 in our series on the book of Hebrews. This one's entitled Receiving an Unshakable Kingdom. And as we think about kingdoms, I'm here in Estonia at Vihulamana, first mentioned in 1501, and clearly a place where there has been a great deal of history. The country has been ruled by Germans and Danes and Swedes and Russians, and I'm sure I don't really know enough about all of that, but you see evidence of the various competing kingdoms, and as soon as you think about kingdoms, you start thinking about Daniel and those kingdoms that followed one another. Think of Babylon, the head of gold, followed by Greece and then Rome, and so it goes, and every kingdom follows another, except in the case of God's kingdom, which, as Daniel saw in his vision, there was this stone that was cut out without human hands, not by human hands, and came and smashed down the image and filled the whole earth, because God's kingdom fills the whole earth eventually when he comes to restore his full reign. Yes, God is in control right now, but we look forward to an unshakable kingdom. And I love the fact that this was a completely different kind of kingdom based on a very different set of principles. The earthly kingdoms were based on might, on violence, on the use of power to subdue other people, and that's not the basis of God's kingdom. I love that little poem there that I put in the notes for this time from George MacDonald. They were looking for a king to slay their foes and lift them high. Thou camest, the little baby thing that made a woman cry. When Jesus came as the Messiah, the people were looking for a leader, somebody who would restore them back to national prominence, to end their subjugation under the yoke of the Romans, to defeat these foes, these pagans, and restore Israel. No, Jesus did not come as that kind of Messiah. And when they wanted to make him king, in their sense of kingship, he refused, he walked away. And as a result, Scripture tells us that many people left because he didn't fulfill their expectations of what a Messiah king would be like. He wasn't going to lead them in a victorious defeat of the Romans. He wasn't going to be at the head of the army. He wasn't going to be that kind of king. And at the end, Jesus is accused to Pilate of being a king of the Jews. And of course, that would have been a threat to the governor of Judea there, Pilate. He didn't want to see anybody who was going to try and stage a rebellion or be in conflict with the Roman authorities. And when Jesus says, I'm a king but not of this world, all that Pilate hears is, I'm a king. And he says, so you are a king then. And Jesus is really trying to tell Pilate, this is not my kind of kingdom. This is not my unshakable kingdom that you think I would have. It is something that is way beyond your concept. It is a concept where righteousness dwells, where there isn't this power struggle, where there isn't violence and killing and invasions and imposing your rule. It is a very, very different kind of kingdom that is going to be set up. At the end of all that, Pilate decides that this person is not a threat. Jesus is not a threat. He goes out and says, I don't find anything against this man. He's not guilty of a crime, certainly not one that merits death. What should I do with your king? Shall I crucify your king? He asks. And what is their answer? We have no king but Caesar. In other words, we identify with the worldly concept of kings and kingship. We don't really want to identify with God as king. There's the tragedy. And we too can do similar things. Let us concentrate on making sure that we look forward to this unshakable kingdom when God restores all this, and it begins now as we follow the principles of God's kingdom.